Hi, everybody. Welcome to our introductory webinar for the Marriage of Spirit online course. I'm Brad, and I am super excited about today for two main reasons. One is that the material we're presenting in this course is such a significant part of the foundation of the path of self-discovery that Core Light offers. In fact, I would say it's more like the cornerstone of all of the teachings that my beloved spouse, Leslie Temple-Thurston, brought through over many decades. And we're going to talk a lot about this. I'm not going to belabor the point now, but it's the practices we're talking about are transformative and simple and life-changing. And so you can tell I'm a little bit passionate about this. And the other reason I'm so excited about today is that I get to be with my co-host, Helané Wahbeh, who I think many of you know. I don't often get to spend time with her, but she's a dear friend and a longtime student of Leslie's. And I invited Helané to co-lead with me today for many reasons. But without further ado, I think I should introduce her. We decided to introduce each other. So I'm going to read a little short bio to you right now. Helané Wahbeh is the Director of Research at the Institute of Noetic Sciences. Dr. Wahbeh is clinically trained as a naturopathic physician and research trained with a Master of Clinical Research and 2 postdoctoral research fellowships. She has published on and spoken internationally about her studies. Dr. Wahbeh is especially known for her research around and noetic approach to channeling. And that's her official bio, but I also want to give you my personal experience of Helané. I've known Helané for, I think, a couple of decades or so. Um, she first came into my life as a student of Leslie's, and I've just been so gratified and so impressed to watch her grow and step into her awakening and into her leadership role in the world and her spiritual maturity and to a very high path of service. I don't know if you all know what the Institute of Noetic Sciences is, but it's an organization that Leslie and I have tracked and been part of for since 2000, so a long, long time. And if you don't know what it is, I invite you to go check it out at noetic, noetic.org. It was founded long ago by the astronaut Edgar Mitchell, who, and again, this is my take on it. So Helané, you can correct me if I'm getting it a little wrong, but basically Edgar Mitchell was one of the first astronauts to go to the moon. And he had a spiritual experience in space. And when he came back to Earth, because he's a scientist, he dedicated his life to the scientific study of consciousness and spirituality. And that now includes just a huge range of things, all the way from, channeling to spirituality to like everything you can think of. I think there's probably nothing off limits. And I'm just so impressed with the research they're doing. And Helané gets to be the head of the research department. So anyway, um, basically, she's a longtime friend, and I'm just so, so grateful that you're here, Helané, and I thank you for coming, and I'm just going to turn it over to you now. Take it away, Helané.
Thank you so much, Brad. And yes, it is such a deep pleasure to be here with you. And some of you might be wondering, well, how am I here with you today talking with Brad and about Core Light? But I actually learned about Leslie in 2001, so 25 years ago now, which is amazing. And I was in the middle of a divorce. I had a 1-year-old child. I was really in a very challenge space. And someone said, I met this teacher and she's having a darshan and you should go check it out. And I went to the darshan and it was just such, even in my kind of dark, messed up space, there was this feeling of expansion and resonance. And I said, okay, this is really a path that I want to explore. And I've been deeply connected to Core Light and the work since then, doing this spiritual warrior training program, which is what it was called before, and then a teacher training program, and just basically live this work. And I'm so deeply grateful for it. I'm also incredibly passionate about it because it's such a powerful tool. So I'm just thrilled to be guiding our time together today and having a conversation with Brad so that you get a sense of what these tools are and how they can potentially support you and see if it's right for you. One thing I love about Core Light is, there's no preaching that this is the one way to shift and awaken, and yet it is an incredibly powerful way. And so I'm envisioning that our time together today will allow you to learn enough to see, well, is this a way that I want to explore? So I'm just thrilled to be here. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Brad, who is the author of Living with Enlightenment, A Journey of Love. And Brad guides seekers towards inner freedom, divine remembrance, and joy using simple spiritual practices. His life partner of 35 years is Leslie Temple-Thurston, a teacher of enlightenment who is now fully retired. But together, they co-founded the nonprofit corelight.org and its humanitarian arm, Seeds of Light, which serves South Africa's marginalized communities, including orphans and vulnerable children. I can also personally say that I so appreciate Brad as a teacher and a mentor, and I'm honored to call him a dear friend. He is grounded and engaging and supportive. And if you've met him before, you know his joy is absolutely infectious. I'm always impressed with how he presents this incredibly profound material in down to earth and understandable ways. So with those intros, I'm just thrilled to dive into our conversation about the Marriage of Spirit course and the tools. And so I thought we'd just start very basic and ask you if you can just share a little bit about what the course is actually offering.
Thank you, Helané. The course is based on Leslie's and my book, The Marriage of Spirit. The subtitle of the book is Enlightened Living in Today's World, and it is essentially a spiritual training for the modern age. These are very ancient practices. They have been revamped for our busy, fast-paced lifestyle these days. If I could summarize the book in one sentence, it would be freeing your mind to awaken your heart. And I think one of the most important aspects of this material is that it greatly accelerates the path. So we're talking about clearing patterns that limit us. If you've ever done any of this kind of work before, you know that clearing the patterns that limit us are like cleaning out an old hall closet. With these simple practices, you can cut through years of the mental clutter in just minutes a day. So they're incredibly simple, but they're extremely life-changing practices, and they really help you feel more peace and joy and balance in your life. So that's a quick summary of a much bigger question.
That's great. Thank you, Brad. And so, of course, 25 years ago, these classes were taught very differently. We have incredible technology nowadays that allows you to present it in a different way. So what's the course structure? How do you actually teach it?
Okay, so it's an online course. It's being taught live. So it actually begins September 9th, 2026 this year, and ends October 21st. But you can take it asynchronously, so you don't have to worry if you're not available the whole time or if you fall behind. You have the course for 6 months. You can download and keep all of the audios and the PDFs and home practices and things like that forever. As I mentioned earlier, it is, I think I said, it's 5 sessions. It's built around Leslie's original Marriage of Spirit audios, which is the source material for the book. And the course covers the 5 main tools, which we can talk more about today. But the main tools are, number 1, the witnessing practice. And then we have 3 clearing practices: polarities, triangles, and squares. And there's also the fifth and final one is the map of the upward and downward spirals. Plus, with the course, there are 3 live webinars with me. There's question and answer time in the webinars, so you can ask me any questions about the material. And I also give teachings during the webinars. I share my experience of how I've applied the practices and the material to my own life and the results that I observed from that, as well as I've watched so many others go through this, like you, Helané, many, many people, hundreds, maybe thousands of people going through doing this work. And I've watched so much transformation happen. So I give those examples and I share how the results may come for people. These webinars are recorded, so they'll be online later for anybody to watch who can't be there live.
Yeah, that's such a wonderful resource that to be able to experience it live, but even if you can't, to have those recordings available are priceless, especially in our very busy world. So that's wonderful. And so, I shared a little bit about what brought me to this work and what I got out of it, and I'll share a little bit more about that. But what do you find, like, why do we do this anyway? Like, what kind of person is going to want to do these tools?
Right,
Like,
like
what are they going to get out of it? Why do this?
why do this? Why on earth would you do this? Um, so what I can tell you is people come to these practices for many different reasons. I think one of the most basic reasons is just to bring more peace and joy and balance into your life. Um, you know, for somebody whose life is chaotic, so much of us have lived a life with so much negativity in it. We want some more simplicity. We want some more ease in life. And that's one of the main reasons people come is just for that simple pleasure in life, peace and balance. People come because they want more fulfillment out of life, but they're not sure how to do that. How do I get there? What is that about? So that's another reason. I think one of the main reasons people come is to manifest. And what I mean by that is lots of people have come to this work who, they come and what they really want out of life is uh, the more money or a more fulfilling career or, a more appropriate partner, their best partner imaginable, a dream partner. A house, whatever it is that people want to manifest in this world, love, wisdom, all these different things that we come in for, this clearing work can help us get there. And often, like people will come and they'll get the dream job they wanted, and we'll never see them again. And and that's perfectly fine. That's exactly what we hope for, actually. They go off and we hear from them 20 years later and they'll write a letter saying, gosh, thank you so much. I really, I made that work my daily practice and I got the career I wanted, which is why you haven't heard from me in 20 years because I've been so busy with my career. So that's the kind of manifesting that, one can do with this work. Um, Another reason people come is for better communication skills. And specifically, there's one person I can give an example of. And many more people are coming these days for this reason. It's for interspecies communication. Um, Many of you might know my friend Anna Breitenbach, who's an animal communicator, an interspecies communicator, and we co-teach a course online called For the Love of Animals. Um, Anna's one of the most remarkable interspecies communicators that I've ever met, maybe one of the most remarkable in the world. Um, and what she told me was the reason that she invited me to co-teach that course with her is because she said it was discovering the witnessing practice and the clearing practices that helped her to take a quantum leap with her ability to communicate with animals. And so it was after taking that quantum leap that her work went viral. And I marvel at the many different ways we don't even think of how somebody can apply these tools. So that's one way. If you want to deepen your communication skills, specifically your interspecies communication skills, this is a way to do it. People also come for trauma healing. We've had many people come and save themselves many, many years of therapy and lots of money. It's also it's great if you're healing from addiction. It's a good it's a really good practice to follow up on the 12 steps with, or to do alongside the 12 steps. It's another reason I've seen many people come from the 12 steps to this work. Um, and I guess lastly, I would say many people come for enlightenment. They come for full-blown spiritual awakening, and this work can definitely take you there. It's a way to permanently open the heart and clear the ego completely. To live with a witness on board 24/7, 365. And as if you're familiar with this at all, when I say the witness, I know we'll be talking about it, but essentially, the more we live in the witness, the more awake we are. And all of these things are our birthright. This is why, this is why we came here. We are all already awake. And it's just that we've forgotten that. And these practices are the things that help clear the hall closet. They help clear the veils of forgetfulness. So I get the way I'll close by saying with a metaphor, Helané, the way one can look at this as the ego is a lens. It's the lens through which we interact with the world, through which we see the world, communicate with the world, experience the world. And so often, for most of us, that lens is very clouded with shadows and patterns and negativity and all kinds of things. And if it's all clouded up, we're not going to be able to live our full potential in the world. So, and the truth is, when we've got those clouds covering the lens, we don't really have a very good time with life. And so, clearing that lens, clearing the lens of the ego, the more we can do that, the more we can live in joy and in our highest potential. Whatever your path, whatever you come to this work to do, it's so much about acceleration. I know, Helané, you've experienced this and we can talk about it, but no matter the reason, these exercises, they accelerate your path extraordinarily.
I can say for myself, like what really drew me in the moment to the work, that I was in pain and I was suffering and I wanted relief from that. And yet through the decades, I've received each one of these, more balance, peace, joy, healing trauma, manifesting, awakening. And so it's pretty incredible that regardless of what brings you to the work, there's so much more that evolves from it as well, besides that kind of initial thing that you were curious about. And so I think what's really unique about Core Light is, how Leslie developed the marriage of spirit, how the practices came to her and the principles behind them. Can you just give people a view through the window of how this all came about?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Thank you for asking it, because I actually don't get to talk about this very often. Leslie is clairaudient, which means, like clairvoyance is clear seeing, clairaudience is clear hearing. She hears her spiritual guides telepathically, inwardly. So her spiritual path was unique in that she only had two physical teachers, two teachers in the body. The vast majority of her spiritual guidance was from her inner guides, from her spiritual inner guides, and it's telepathic communication. So the marriage of spirit practices were given to her by her inner spiritual guides. She used them for her own awakening. So we we know that they work because that's how she had her enlightenment, was through using those practices. I would say the way Leslie described it to me, when we wrote the Marriage of Spirit book, we had to quantify, what is this? Where do these practices come from? What we came to is that the marriage of spirit is a synthesis of three different disciplines. One is spiritual psychology. So that's the modern part. And the ancient part, the second thing, is jnana yoga. For those of you who are not familiar with jnana yoga, jnana means it's the yoga of the mind. It's unraveling the knots in the mind. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But it's a very ancient practice. It's one of the four primary yogas. Yoga meaning our path of union with our inner divinity, with the divine which is within us, the self with a capital S, getting to know ourselves through clearing the mental clutter. That's jnana yoga. And the third discipline is it's the reconciliation of opposites. Let's see, is there anything else I want to say about that? Helané, does that answer the question, or is there anything more you were thinking of around that?
Well, what just came up for me is Jung's work around
Mm.
the shadow and the reconciliation of opposites. So that kind of Western piece is really aligned there as well, that Jungian psychology.
Yes, these practices dovetail so much with what Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychologist, taught. And I think we'll probably, when we talk about the practices themselves today, we'll probably talk a little bit about his perspective, his methods. But yeah, I didn't know anything about him. I first learned about these practices through Leslie. And then it was later that people, Jungian analysts and Jungian professionals would come to us and say, you know how much this dovetails with the teachings of Carl Jung? And I would say, no, I didn't know that at all. And yet they're very, very similar because he was very much about that, the reconciliation of opposites.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's so unique about the core light tools is that they really are kind of a synthesis. Like it's not like one just specific lineage,
Right.
that many traditions are. It's kind of this synthesis of multiple different, like the best of the best coming together,
Yeah, an eclectic
East
mix.
and West. Yeah,
Yeah.
come into this
Well,
unified whole. So go ahead.
can I speak to that? It's interesting you brought that up. I remember we've talked before about the way that we used to originally present this material was by Leslie would say, she felt that these practices were so much for Western enlightenment, is the way she described it. And that made perfect sense back in the day because many people on this journey of self-discovery were from an Eastern discipline, Buddhism, Hinduism, yoga. And so the way Leslie described it was, these practices are a synthesis. They're meant for the Western mind. And yet, over the 25 years, the book was written 26 years ago. We published in 2000, and she was teaching this since the late 1980s. And what we've discovered over all those years is that it's not just for the Western mind, it's for the Eastern mind as well, of course, and there's no such thing as Western enlightenment versus Eastern enlightenment. It is enlightenment. It's remembering who we truly are, remembering our inner divinity. The truth of the self with a capital S. And so I don't differentiate anymore. I don't talk about it as tools for Western enlightenment, although it is. I think what Leslie was referring to is that, especially in the West, uh, in the modern world, our minds and our lifestyles are so busy. We think all the time, and we're very geared towards that left brain, linear, rational way of thinking. And I think that's what she was saying is that it's specifically for that. That's the cluttered hall closet. That's the clouded lens, is when we're stuck in that mind. It's a way out of that. And it's a way into the heart. Like I said at the beginning, it's about freeing the mind. And why would you do that? It's to awaken the heart. So it's all for all of us. Each of us personally is birthing this new paradigm of the heart within us. We're at the turning of an age. And I feel like that's what these practices are here for, to support us as we each birth our own new paradigm of the heart in our own personal world. And of course, when enough of us do that, we birth it collectively on planet Earth
Yeah.
as well.
Yes, yes. And that is so desperately needed. And
Right.
so, we've kind of talked around, we keep saying the tools, the processes, these tools in this kind of more abstract way. So let's kind of dive into more details. Like, what actually are the tools? What is the work? Can you give us a concrete example, say, of how the
Yeah,
polarities work?
absolutely. That's a great question. Thank you. Uh, so let's just pick up where we just left off. We were talking about the busy mind, right? Our busy lifestyle. And I like one of the issues I think most people in the world are having right now is with overwhelm. You know, we have this fire hose of information, as I've heard you call it, and we're all dealing with this fire hose of information. We're dealing with an unbelievably busier than ever lifestyle. And so, how do we deal with overwhelm? And the way the marriage of spirit practices work is you stop and you pause and you say, okay, I'm dealing with overwhelm. You name it, number one, you name the thing. So we're naming overwhelm. And then this very simple practice is asking yourself, what's the opposite of this? And so I'm going to pause right now and invite everybody who's listening uh, to look inwardly. And what do you come up with for the opposite of overwhelm? Helané, what do you come up with?
What comes up for me is coping, you know,
Yeah,
because if I'm not overwhelmed, I'm coping, I'm dealing with what's coming at me. So it's
I
coping is the word.
yeah, that's me too. That was what I would have said as well. Coping, coping and overwhelm are true opposites. And so the question then becomes, and again, this is an experiential thing. I can invite you all to try this. What do you feel in your body when you hear that opposite word, coping? And by the way, if you came up with a different word, there's no such thing as a wrong answer. It's whatever feels true for you. There's no right and wrong in this. If you came up with a different word, that may be perfect for you. What I recommend is to feel in your body, and how does it feel? Do you feel the vibration match as a pair of opposites? So can you feel how the unconscious charge that was on that word overwhelm is relieved? It's like a relief and a release whenever you find the true opposite of something. And that's like Helene, we were talking about Carl Jung, and this is what he used to talk about was holding the tension between two sides of any polarity, the two opposites. So hold the tension. And in the holding of the tension between, for example, overwhelm and coping, we allow room for a third option to manifest. And we don't know what that is, but it's a resolution, that's currently unknown. And so I guess that's an example. Without going any further, I feel like that needs to be a little bit of a teaser, because if we go into it anymore, we're going to be doing the course. So the course takes that much further and goes into, how do you actually hold the tension between two sides of a pair of opposites, and how do you manifest that third way? So these are the teachings, these are the practices, and I know a lot of people are already familiar with the practices. So if you're new, we go into the teachings, but if you've already done some of this and you know the practices, we go deeper. We go into more depth in how you do them, and how you take it further.
Yeah, it's amazing because, I'm just putting myself as a naive person to the core light work, and how I felt when I was first learning about it. And it's like opposites, like what the heck is that going to do? Like I'm just looking through a thesaurus trying to pick a word that's opposite of this, and yet it's so incredibly profound. And if it's okay, I'd love to share an actual
Oh
example
yeah,
from my
please.
experience around this.
I want to
And
hear.
yeah, and so I was really grateful because I got to go be with you and Leslie in Santa Fe early in my work with Core Light. And I was really struggling with an interpersonal relationship. I had a large property, and there were many different families living in that property, and I was really struggling with one person in particular. Like, we were just fighting heads all the time, and I was all just really intense inside and frustrated, and head was spinning about this person and how they were aggravating me. And I was totally, it was all his fault, like
Of course it
100%.
was.
It was
Yeah.
100% his fault, but it was like seriously affecting my quality of life and my other relationships, because I was so tied up with this person. So anyway, I expressed that to you, and you guided me through this really cool polarity processing um, exercise where, we put his name at the top of the list. And then I basically just gave all the words that I felt about him, like selfish and irritating and stubborn. And, that list was really lovely and long, like all these negative things that I was thinking about him. And then, we did the opposites, and we matched the polarity. So for each one of those words, I was picking the polarities. And then so there was this, you know, um, huge page with all these polarities. And then the profound piece is the prayer, right? At the end, the offering up, the acknowledging that, yeah, this person is not this side or this side, that I'm actually projecting all of that onto them. Anyway, when we did the offering up, there was just this huge release of energy, and all that, crinkly ickiness inside of me just completely dissipated. I was like, wow, that feels so amazing. But what was even, I mean, that in and of itself was incredible, that just I had this greater sense of ease around that relationship. But what was even more profound is that when I got home, the interaction with him completely shifted. Like, energy his energy to me was so completely different. And so to me, that was such an eye-opening experience about how the inner work affects the outer world. Even without him knowing that I did all that, just me pulling in my projections, acknowledging kind of our oneness in that, just changed him. Anyway, I could go on and on about that, but it was really, really incredible. I hope that gives the people listening just kind of a taste of how something as simple as two, antonyms could create such profound change internally and externally. It's amazing.
Can I
Anyway,
comment on that?
yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's funny, 20 whatever years later, I remember that moment. I remember being in the room with
Yeah.
you. I remember that story. I remember the whole thing. And I watched you have this shift. And later, when you came to me and you said, by the way, when I got home, I didn't have to say a word to him and everything changed. And I
Yeah.
guess the message I probably shared with you then, I don't know, but I think for everybody listening, I think one of the most important principles behind this work is, so it's perfect illustration what you just said, and that is our outer world is a mirror of our own unconscious self. And that is like when Leslie said those words to me for the first time, I didn't get it. It's like that's a very heady notion to think that everything outside of us is a mirror of what's inside. And it's a nice concept, but until you really experience it, it's hard to get. And what I see in these little practices, like you're describing, is when you find the opposite word to what you're dealing with, you're making the unconscious conscious. And that's the whole point of the whole thing. All the practices come back to that. It's about making the unconscious conscious and seeing that we're projecting our unconscious out into the world, and it's very kind in mirroring back to us exactly what we need to see, so that we can wake up to both sides.
Yeah,
So thank you for that
100%.
example. Fantastic example. Thank you.
Yes, 100%. And I want to just, if I can share a tiny bit about my research, because we really
Mm.
look at how intention matters. And, I have hundreds of studies demonstrating that our consciousness, our intention affects the physical world in different ways in the laboratory. And so when you think about that, it's like, well, what's actually being put out there? Is it my conscious self or my unconscious self? So if there's all these hidden things in the unconscious, then that's what gets reflected to the outside. Anyway, it's really interesting to see how the research supports that. So, intrinsic to the polarities, and you've mentioned this a little bit already, is this idea of the neutral witness. And that's so key in all of this. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yes, absolutely. I would say the witness is really at the heart of all of this work. Our witness, everybody has one, whether you're aware of it or not. It's sort of like we all have abs. We can't necessarily all see them, but we have it.
They're
So
there.
they're there. So your witness is your objective observer. It's that part of us that watches us doing us. It watches our personality, our ego acting out in the world, doing our patterns, doing our thing. And it's really the practice of witnessing is about realizing, making real, realizing that we are not our thoughts, we are not our emotions, we are not our patterns. We are so much more than that, more than our human personality. We are pure awareness, pure consciousness, and all of our thoughts and emotions and the experiences of life are passing through us. So that's the essence of it. I mean, it's easier said than done, let's say, right? But it's about strengthening that muscle. It is a practice. We call it the witnessing practice for a reason because it's a practice. And, the more we practice witnessing, the stronger that muscle becomes. The more we're in our witness, the more awake we are. The more we realize, make real, the self with a capital S, that inner divinity. And so once you realize that you have a witness, it's completely life-changing. I would imagine that maybe many people listening to this are very aware of this teaching and very aware of um, this practice. But what we do in the course is we take it deeper. We have lots of tools. We have lots of ways of techniques to strengthen the witness and to remember. It's about remembering to remember. Um, so I'll give a couple of metaphors. Let me give some metaphors. Sometimes an image is very helpful. So the image of the seesaw is a good one because life is about ups and downs. And so usually we're on one side of the seesaw and we're just going up and down with positives and negatives all the time. The witness is like the fulcrum of the seesaw. It's that part of us that can be in the middle of the seesaw watching the ups and downs of life. And that's like that holding of the tension between the two sides. Another metaphor is being in the eye of a storm, right? We have emotional dramas, life's dramas whirling around us, swirling around us like a hurricane, and that eye of the storm, if you've ever experienced that, I'm here in Florida right now. We have lots of hurricanes, and people have the experience of the eye of the storm literally going over them. And you can have pure chaos with the storm, and suddenly when you're in the center, when you're in the eye of the storm, you are in, like you look up and you see blue sky. You don't know there's a storm around. It's that place of the middle way, it's called sometimes. So the eye of the storm is the metaphor for the witness.
Can I share another metaphor
Yeah,
that I really like around this?
yeah, please.
Yeah. So this one is where, you think of the sky, and the sky is this witness I amness, right? But the sky can have puffy white clouds floating by, or it can have dark gray storm clouds where you can't even see the sky, but the sky is always there, regardless of, and you can think of the clouds as your mind and the thoughts in your mind. And so I really like that metaphor. It helps me remember the sky is always there, regardless of how clear the sky is or not.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Yeah, this too shall pass. That's another way to look at it. You know, when you're in that storm, and the clouds are covering the sun, you know it's going to come back out again because it's always
Yeah.
there. It hasn't left. That's who we truly are. We are that eternal self that's always there. Um, and Helané, I guess just the other thing to say, you asked me about the witness. So the other thing to say about it that I think is important is the practice of witnessing is like a positive feedback loop with the clearing practices that we've been talking about, the polarity work. The more we practice witnessing, the deeper we can go with the egoic clearing. And the deeper we go with the egoic clearing, the stronger the witness. So it's this positive feedback loop that is partly what makes this path such an accelerated one.
Yes, 100%.
And
Um,
it's easier said than done, right? I mean, in the heat of the moment, we just lose it. Yeah, like road rage happens or
right, right.
whatever. And that is when you really want a strong witness so that you don't have to spend days, weeks, months, even years for some people before you can come back and remember, oh, right, I have a witness.
Yeah,
So that's what we do in the course. We look at how to practice it so you get better at it. We integrate it more into our daily lives. We live more from that place. And in fact, just yesterday, I just recorded some new guided meditations to add to the course, which will help to strengthen the witness.
yeah. And it's such a gift. I can just say for myself, it's been such an incredible gift to have instituted that stronger witness because there's not a lot of things that trigger me like they did 25 years ago. And if I do feel something, my witness is right there. Oh, okay, we're feeling anxious. Thank you. What's that about? And then I can just do the process and move on. Whereas, in 20 years ago, it's like something would happen and I would just be knocked off of life
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
days because I was so upset or anxious or who knows what about whatever was going on around me. And there is so much to get triggered by in our world today. And so having a strong witness, can I just share one more example?
Yeah, go,
Because
please go
this is
for
an
it.
example that Leslie shared that just so struck me and resonated with me of the potter's wheel. And
Mm.
you imagine, someone on a potter's wheel working, a bowl or something. And the speed of life is the wheel going around and round. And when you have a strong witness, that bowl is just centered perfectly in the center of the wheel. And the wheel can go so fast, but it's just perfectly stable, right? But without the witness, as the wheels start spinning, then the bowl's splattered against the wall because
Yeah.
it can't handle the spinning and the
Uh-uh.
chaos. Anyway, I love that example, and it just always comes back to me. The witness allows you to be in that grounded, centered space as
Yeah.
things spin around you.
Thank you. That's such a great metaphor. And I know we are all seeing lots of people splatting against the wall these days. I
I
have
know.
I can't tell you how many people come to me, people who were studying with Leslie many years ago, and virtually everybody says the same thing. I don't
Yeah,
know what I would do without these practices, with these tools. How are people getting through the world with its chaos, with its craziness, with its
right.
increasing polarity? How are people getting through without tools like this? And we all like just deep bow of gratitude to Leslie for bringing this through, because they really do serve, and they were intended for these times of increasing polarity. They really help us to choose love over the fear, right? And
Yeah,
choose connectedness instead of separation.
yeah, yeah. So, polarities are just one tool that Core Light teaches. Do you want to share anything about the other practices?
Those are two things: the practice of the neutral witnessing and polarities, and the other three things are triangles, squares, and the upward and downward spirals. The triangles and squares They're like the polarities. They're simple journaling practices that you can do in the privacy of your own home. Uh, they're simple and quick, but deceptively so, because they also can be radically life-changing, as Helané, you've experienced, and as some of us know. Uh, don't be fooled by the simplicity, but it's nice to have a little journaling practice you can do at home, and you don't have to go fighting battles in the world. So the triangle specifically, that practice is maybe my favorite. It's so quick. It's 3 minutes, or less. It's a tool that opens your heart, puts you in an elevated state, states like compassion or gratitude or joy. Um, we're talking about the qualities of the heart. It's about putting us there quickly. And these states become a lived experience. It's not like a mental concept of the state. You live it, you feel it. You're living and working in the world in that state. States like forgiveness, generosity, kindness, acceptance, surrender, all of these higher elevated states which reside in the heart. Um, so triangles take any kind of emotional, like a tug of war, and helps you to find the higher ground. Um, and it's like you could call it a transcendent state. It's the what we call the ascended balance state. It balances and ascends the polarity into the heart. Squares. The squares practice, I think, might be the most powerful of all the tools. It's an exercise for resolving unconscious blocks within us. It has many applications. It's good from everything for like simple decision making to also going much deeper, like to the root cause of a pattern or a trauma. And it's about healing and releasing them. And you can even use squares for healing the physical body. Um, so again, these clearing practices, we call them the polarities, triangles, and squares, they accelerate the path. So I want to stress that. It's really about that acceleration. You spend less time, let's say, living out unwanted experiences in the world and learning the hard way, learning by attrition, we say. That those patterns usually repeat themselves. And so we keep reliving similar experiences in the world. Um, and it makes that so much quicker because you resolve these in your journal, like your beautiful example, Helané. And you get to spend more time living in your heart, which is the thing that brings us fulfillment and joy. So, yeah, maybe that's enough. I could go on and on about them, but I think that's probably. Is there anything else you wanted to say about those two things, Helané? Is that good?
No, that's great.
Okay. The fifth of five things we're going to be going over in the course is the upward and downward spirals. And those are a map of human consciousness. Leslie brought them through. I think they're absolute genius. They are states of mind, emotions that arise often when we get triggered by something in the world. So with positive stimuli from the outside world, we spin upward. And with negative stimuli, we spin downward. And the upward and downward spiral map that she created of these states, um, the map helps us to see where we are. We can find ourselves. And what that does is help us to regain our witness, to say, oh, yeah, I'm in worthlessness right now, or I'm in arrogance, or I'm in overwhelm, or whatever it is. And when we see, oh, right, I remember now, this is just a state of mind. It's passing through me. That's not who I am. I'm the witness. I'm pure awareness, and that state is passing through me. So having that map gives us a witness to all of this, and it helps us to navigate that emotional terrain, if you will, with grace, with ease, and with more joy. What is the greatest gift that you're aware of that you've been given from one of those five practices? And
Um,
maybe the greatest one is what you shared already. So what's the second greatest?
yeah. No, well, just to comment on the tools in general, what came to me was the upward downward spirals, right? Because so I have the scientist mind. So understanding that framework, that roadmap is incredibly grounding for me and supportive of strengthening my witness. I even have that on my refrigerator right now. So my whole
Wow.
family's like, oh, okay, I'm upset. Okay, where are you? Here it is. And I had a huge aha, I don't know, over a decade ago around it. It's like I thought of it kind of like a software program, like here's this installed program for us to be in this body on this planet. And it's just a software program. It's not my hardware. It's just a software. And so understanding that helps set the context for being able to do that work in an easeful way. So that was really cool. And then I think the other, which is, it's hard to rank them because they're all so incredible, but just the physical, mental, and emotional peace that I get at the end of the process with the offering up. I mean, I'm very, I can feel things in my body. So, like, I literally feel the clearing and just the expansion from the release after each one of the tools is just lightning,
Beautiful.
joyful, blissful. um, it really,
Yeah.
really has improved my quality of life in a huge way. I mean, what
Oh.
about you? I know you could probably say so many things, but like if you could pick one or two, what would be the greatest gifts for you?
Uh, oh, Helané, there's so many. I think maybe I'll put a pin in that. Maybe we save that
Okay.
for the course.
Okay.
Or
Sounds
maybe,
good.
or maybe if we have time, I'll share a little bit later. Yeah, there's so many examples. It's hard to pick one.
Yeah. Well, one that I've witnessed in you over and over and over and
Yeah.
over again is joy. Joy.
Ah,
I
yeah.
mean, you
Okay,
just
that's the
radiate
answer.
this beautiful, infectious joy. And so, maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Thank you. Okay, well, that is the answer to the question, honestly, because I have been through a lot and been through a lot of challenges in my life, and coming out the other side of many of the challenges, I have found more joy than I've ever experienced in life, and I attribute that directly to this work, to strengthening the witness, to doing the clearing work. Um, joy, pardon me. Um, Joy is the highest manifestation of the spiritual journey. And I know so many of us, we think that life's too busy to feel joy, or there's too much suffering in the world, right? To feel joy. I feel too guilty to feel joy. I feel too busy to feel joy. So I guess part of my reminder for people in general, but especially with this course and this work, is that it's our birthright. It is our birthright to be living in joy, and we forget that. The way the world is, it's so easy to be pulled out into the fear and into all the dramas. And, we forget that we can, not only can we live in joy, but it's our birthright to live in joy. We come here, we incarnate to experience joy. So I love to remind people of that, and that's my mantra. That's my my North Star is that joy. It's joy is our highest vibration. Joy is the highest vibration on that we can be living in. I feel like um, it's so important to be living in joy right now as much as we possibly can.
Just want to be really clear for people listening right now because it's so easy to hear that and think of that as like a Pollyanna, like
Ah,
positive thinking, or like,
right,
oh, I'm going to just ignore all this other stuff and be joyful, spiritually bypassing what's
right.
happening in the world right now. And so I want to be super clear that that's totally not what you're talking about. It is,
Yes.
yeah, it's this very heart opened, authentic vibration. And, I was kind of joking like your joy is infectious, but it actually really is. like when we are holding that grounded, witnessed, authentically heart open, joyful space, it actually helps other people. And so there is the way to be in that joy and gratitude, just like holding the opposites. We hold the joy within us. And it's not even that we hold it, it's that we are joy. We are the joy. And we can still hold all these, the violence and the trauma and everything happening around us while being joy. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but I think it's actually, in my mind, one of the most powerful spiritual activisms that we can do is to hold this beingness of joy while witnessing what's happening around us and being in compassion and love and joy.
Well, I think you said it beautifully, and I think you've hit upon maybe the most important part of this, because that's what this work is about. It's the opposite of spiritual bypassing, right? It's where we go deep into it. We're not avoiding it. We're not denying it. We're not suppressing it. We're shining a light on the shadow. We're making the unconscious conscious, fully befriending the pain, the fear, the anger, whatever it is, whatever emotion we may normally try to shy away from. It's not about pushing it away. So again, without actually teaching the course, that's what we're going to go into, is like, how do we do that? How can we come to this place where we can live in joy no matter the outer circumstances? So
Yeah.
I guess my message is really that the joy is possible even amidst great challenges. And that's what this work enables. Um, I know it's a very ancient spiritual teaching to meet the sorrows of the world with joy. And so that's, to me, a very succinct way of talking about this. The way I like to speak about it is like, what I say to people is, what if you were told that it's your job to live in joy?
Mhm.
What if it were our job? What if we knew that that were our job? And I'm not talking about being a joy Nazi. I'm not talking about, we all need our time to go through grief or to go through the anger or whatever it is we need to go through. But when that's complete, it's important to remember that's temporary. That's passing through. And then we come back to that place of the witness and the joy.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brad. That's so beautiful. And
Yeah.
I guess it also brings up for me this idea that, our human emotions are so multifactorial that we can actually be being that joy and have grief flow through us or have sorrow flow through us. So it's not that we're just these unidimensional beings that can only feel one emotion at a time, and that, like, that joy beingness can be kind of a core state while other emotions flow through as well. Anyway, I think that leads to something else I wanted to say about these tools, because someone who's new to this work might also wonder, like, well, how much time is this going to take? And, this is going to be so much work to, like, do all these processes. And I want to just reassure them that you can use these tools anywhere. Like, I don't know how many times I've been sitting in traffic in, like, bumper to bumper, and be like, okay, here's irritation. What's the opposite of that? And just, offering it up right there, and, seeing things shift around me just quickly. I've been in conversations with people where they're, upset and yelling, and I'm like, okay, there's anger, and, just naming it. So it can be very quick, very simple, very easy, and just totally integrated just in daily life.
Yeah, such a good point. And I feel like that's what Leslie was telling us, when these practices and these tools came through her, for the quote unquote Western mind. It's really for the busy Western lifestyle. It's like you can do these in a minute. It only takes a minute, and you don't have to sit on a meditation cushion. You just do it in traffic, or you do it on standing in line in the grocery store or wherever you are.
Yes, yes, 100%. Well, Brad, I think we've given a really, really nice overview of the course and the tools. And, I hope people are really kind of at least understanding a little bit about what it's about. And we did get some questions that people had about it ahead of time that I'd love to ask you, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's go for it. I know we solicited some questions, so let's see
Yeah.
what you have.
Okay, great. So here's a fun one. What does the marriage of spirit actually mean? Like
Ah,
why is that title? What's that term?
well, that's such a great question. I actually don't talk about this very often, but the original title, when Leslie and I were playing with the titles of the book, we had words, how you put words out on a whiteboard, or you cut them out and you move them around and you come up with your title. Well, the words that we had were um, the marriage of spirit and matter.
Mm,
And then we took and matter away and we were like, yeah, that's it. We like that. But it means the marriage of spirit and matter,
mm,
because that's what we are in these bodies. In these human bodies we get to wear, we are the marriage of spirit and matter. It's literally about embodiment. It's about embodying the spiritual principles and the light, the transcendent light in the body, in our physical world, bringing it right down into our busy Western lifestyle. There we go again. It's about bringing it into our relationship with other people, into our relationship with money, into our job, into all aspects of life, family, what have you. That's the marriage of spirit and matter, is literally living it. I think the basic teaching is our worldly life is our spiritual life.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I actually hadn't heard that before. And
Uh,
it totally resonates with me because I feel like today's spirituality is not about going into the cave and being secluded and the spiritual hermit. It's like, how do you actually bring it into this worldly life, being the householder and the and embodying it. So I think that's really cool.
it's sort of like I've heard a friend says, that the monastery walls the monastery's been turned inside out. There are no more walls. There are no more walls around the monastery. This is the monastery. We're living it. We're in the monastery, and we're bringing all those spiritual practices that we've learned from many lifetimes into the world right now. There's no better time to be practicing what we've learned, right?
Right, right. Very true. So, this is also a fun question. Can you share more about how Leslie um, received and worked with these processing practices herself? Like, what
Yeah.
role would you say these tools played in her own awakening process? I know you mentioned that before, but maybe you
No, no,
could
no, it's important. I
talk
can
about that.
elaborate on that. It's a good question. Thank you for whoever asked that question. Um, so, like I said, Leslie got these practices from her inner spiritual guides. The two tools that she used on herself to become enlightened, for lack of a better word, I hesitate to use that word anymore because everybody uses the word enlightenment and nobody really knows what it means anymore. But
Mm,
what Leslie said was, when she talked about enlightenment, the way she defined it was um, clearing the ego completely, dissolving into the self with a capital S. And when she returned from that final experience, it was a series of experiences over many years, but it culminated with one profound meditation that was like 3 days long, where she literally merged with the oneness. And when she came out of that, she knew she was completely different. Um, and the way she describes it is that sense of ego self, the small self, never came back. Her
mm,
guides told her, "We're going to give you." what they called a caretaker ego now,
Mm,
which meant they told her it's sort of like everybody on the planet, anyone who has a physical body on this planet has to have an ego, even if it's very, very small, because all the ego is the container. It's the container that holds the consciousness. And we all need a container, no matter who we are. Even enlightened beings need a container. So they said the container we're going to give you is very, very streamlined. It's the most minimal container you could possibly have to be alive in a body on planet Earth.
mm,
And so that was how she described her enlightenment. And the two tools that her guides gave her to reach that place were the witnessing practice and the polarity practice.
mhm,
It's not the only thing she did. She did other things. We're not, like you said before, we're not saying that these tools are the only thing you need. Meditation is something we all need. And there's so many different practices and techniques out there nowadays that are so helpful. But this is what Leslie used primarily. She primarily used the polarities, the witnessing, and meditation, those three things for her enlightenment experience. And then after her enlightenment experience, people started spontaneously showing up to her apartment. She Word got around. There's this woman that lives in that apartment. You should go sit in meditation with her. And people would just start showing up. And so she started holding little group meditations, and they grew bigger and bigger. I showed up in 1991, so a
mhm,
few years after. It was 1988 when she had her enlightenment experience. And it was after I showed up that her guides gave her the practice of triangles and squares. And so she used those on herself as well. But we all use them to, like, we were very, it took a little while for those of us who were more dense, let's say, to recognize the power of these things. But eventually I got it. I saw the power of them. And yeah, I mean, the upward and downward spirals, those also came in the 90s as Leslie's work grew. We started our life partnership, the work grew, and she started codifying. I helped her. That was really my role, is to help codify, quantify the teachings. And that's when the upward and downward spiral came, was to map those out to help
mm,
strengthen the witness practice.
mhm,
Does that
mhm.
help? Is there
Yeah,
more I could say about that, or?
no, no, I think that's fantastic. It's great to hear the Leslie's story and what she
Mm.
used. There are a couple questions I think we covered pretty well already, but I'm going to just share them and see if there's anything else you want to add. One is about just our personal experiences and examples of having big breakthroughs and shifts for the processing practices, and if we still use them. I think we've talked about that quite
I'm
a bit.
happy to give, yeah, I
Yeah, but if you
deferred.
want to give another example, okay.
Let me give an example, because you asked me, I deferred, and here it is again. So I better say something. So let me share. I'm not going to dodge the question a second time. So okay, so what comes to, there's so many to choose from. So the one that comes to mind to talk about is around money.
Mm,
And I wrote a whole chapter about this in my book. So I'm not going to tell the whole story. We'd be here for an hour. But it was a long and winding road, working with money. Um, I feel like that's one of the most valuable application, that, listen to that, the metaphor of the value of money, the value of applying these practices to money in our lives, because money is something that has its tentacles, on everything. There's virtually nothing in our life that's not touched by money in some way. All aspects of life are touched by money. So I I had plenty of money baggage back in the day, and I filled notebooks full of polarities, triangles, and squares around patterns that I was given in this life and in past lives around money. And I bet you most people listening to this call can relate to that, because we come in with our karmic patterns from other lifetimes. And if you've had spiritual lifetimes, we call them, to the spiritual lifetimes, like in a monastery or a convent or as an ascetic or whatever, you've got money stuff to deal with because in those lifetimes we didn't have to work with money. We shunned money. And so here we are in this world where everything's about money. And it was a an extraordinary growth journey for me around issues of money. And I can say that I had an enormous breakthrough. There was this one, it would really take too long to tell the whole story, but Leslie and I were, how much can I tell without going overboard? Um, anyway, let's just say that I was fed up with my money process. I was at the point where I was like, this, no more. This is done. And I had said that many times before, but there was more. We keep uncovering the layers and there's another basement underneath. But I reached this point where I really was effing done. And I did another square on, I think it was abundance and scarcity.
Mm.
And and then I went deep into, I had a huge breakthrough, another layer. I'd done that square many times before. It wasn't the first time. And I had this huge breakthrough and I went into a meditation and it's impossible to put these things into words, when you have a spiritual experience. But if I had to put it into words, uh, what I would say is I found in that meditation at a cellular level, in my bones, in my DNA, I got the realization that I am not my money. I am not the income. I am not the expense. I am not $1 million in the bank account, nor am I the debt. Whatever it is, that's not who I am. I am pure awareness, pure consciousness, pure love. And I am a steward of a flow of resources. And these are concepts that I knew, I understood them, but I got it at a much deeper level. It was like I got it in my bones. And I came out of that meditation and I was so high and I got it. It dropped, the penny dropped finally. And I went running to Leslie and I said, "Sweetheart, I've got to tell you what just happened." And I kind of, I gave her the story and she said, "That's so amazing because while you were in meditation, my guides spoke to me and they gave me some information. We had been doing everything up to that point. All of our events had been purely by donation. Somebody could put $1 in the basket or nothing. It didn't matter. And as a result of that, we went into a lot of debt and we thought we'd be paying off that debt for the rest of our lives. And but we kept checking, it wasn't, whenever we would check in, we would always get, no, no, just keep doing that. But it was scary. It was my fear. It was really my process around fear of scarcity. Anyway, Leslie said my guide spoke to me and they said, "We have an idea for you to earn some money. Next time you go to the Bay Area to do your events, do your weekend of darshans as you always do them by donation. But add a Monday intensive where it's a fee. You charge $100 per person, and that's the fee. And you let people know that this is essentially a fundraiser for your nonprofit, which is what it was. And so we earned more money in one day than we had in 6 months by doing that. And it was and it was in a short amount of time that we paid off all the debt that we had, and we had a surplus so that I could hire more help in the office so that I could be freed to do more things. And again, that's a very simplified journey. That's a very simplified version of the story. And it went on from there. There was a lot more. But that was, I think, one of the most memorable breakthroughs, one of the biggest breakthroughs I had that really affected my life in a profound way.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think many of us can absolutely resonate with this idea of money being tied up with our identity. And your example is so perfect for demonstrating how this inner work really gets reflected in the outer world and how solutions show up that weren't showing up when you were all tangled up. But then,
Yep.
you have this breakthrough and then oh, wow, here's this opportunity that wasn't there a second ago because I actually cleared my unconscious energy around it. Anyway, it's really quite profound. So we're hitting almost the end of our time. So I'm going to just ask one more question, which I think is a nice segue into our closing. So, what about the actual book? Is it important for people to read the book before the session, or how does the book work with the actual course?
So no, you don't have to have read the book. You don't have to be reading the book. The course stands on its own. As I said, it's based in Leslie's audios that she recorded. Most of them were recorded before we wrote the book. So it's the source material for the book, and that's what we're going to be drawing on. But it's very helpful to read the book. You can start reading it before, or you can be reading it during the course. Part of the gift of one of the gifts of the course is you get a complimentary Marriage of Spirit ebook and a Marriage of Spirit audiobook. A couple of years ago, I went to a studio, and thanks to some very dear sponsors, we were given the funds to create the audiobook. And I went to a studio and read the Marriage of Spirit book. So that's a gift with the course.
That's amazing. That truly is a wonderful gift. That's great to be able to have that as a resource, the audiobook. So, is there anything else you feel like we've missed that you really want to share before we kind of wrap it up today?
Ah, Helané, one of the things I want to close by talking about the course, just giving some details, but maybe before we do, one of the things I heard you mention that feels so important to me is, the state of the world and how important it is to have some practices, simple practices that can help us get through these times, not just get through them, but thrive during them and find our joy during them, and to contribute to the birthing of the new paradigm of the heart. Um, so do we have time to say a few words about that? Is there anything you'd like to say about that? I mean, I can talk a little bit
No,
about it, but
yeah. Yes, thank you so much for presencing that again. And I will just share my personal experience that, through the years, I did so much of my own processing that the layers would clear, that then when I would do the process again, it was me doing it for the world, like me and the world. And it really felt like this form of um, social spiritual activism, like, I know you're going to talk in the class about the victim tyrant polarity and how that's absolutely playing out in the world, and just doing that square over and over and over again, and what's being reflected on the outside. I really do believe that makes a difference in the world.
oh, I completely agree with you, and I think I'm glad you brought that point up because um, um, like you were saying, it's spiritual activism, excuse me, it's sacred activism to do our inner clearing work, and to stand in our joy. That is sacred activism. It's how we can help the world the most. And the phrase that I always come back to around this is the greatest gift that we can give the world is our own spiritual awakening.
Mm.
And if we come back to that principle that we were talking about before of everything in the world is a mirror of our own unconscious self, that explains why the previous one is true. Because if we're clearing our own unconscious, the world's going to change. I think the beauty of your story, if I didn't say this before, but the story you gave about you just cleared yourself. You didn't have to go talk to the person who bothered you, and then he changed. Why did he change? Because he's a mirror of what's in you. So when enough of us go through the inner changes and awaken our hearts to a degree, we're going to manifest that in the outer world. The world can become nothing else but a mirror of what's inside us. So that's how I look at it. And that's why I get so passionate about this work.
Yeah, because so many people are feeling a sense of powerlessness and, lack of control around the world and all of the challenging things happening there. And it's like, well, what can I do? What can I do about my government? What can I do about war and violence and hunger? And, the list goes on and on. It's like, well, actually, this is really something that I can do. And once you dive into the work, and I already mentioned my research supports that, you see the reality of that. You see the reality of how the inner absolutely shifts the outer. So thank you for highlighting that again. I think it's so, so important.
Well, and thank you for the work you do. Like I said in the beginning, I'm so proud of you and I'm so grateful for the work you do because through science, you and the Institute of Noetic Sciences is quantifying what we know to be true, right? It's like science is finally catching up with the ancient spiritual teachings, and you're proving that. You're in the front lines of that. So I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Brad. And I want to just share one more thing. My mother and I wrote a book together, memoirs about generational healing, because this work also profoundly impacts kind of our ancestral lineage going into the future. And so those layers of the patterns that you've inherited can also be cleared. And it was so beautiful to see kind of the unfolding of that for her, from her experience to my experience, and working with these tools, and seeing how that's shifted it for my own children. I mean, my own children are not inheriting all these negative patternings because I've been able to clear those. So anyway, we could talk for hours.
I
Go ahead.
know. I'll say one more thing about it. I just have to comment on that. I've read your book, Free to Be Me. What is the subtitle?
Healing transgenerational something. I'm so sorry. I'm totally blanking on this one.
I
It's this
caught you.
beautiful long subtitle that I'm totally blanking out on it this
All right.
morning.
Well, I can only say when you go to Amazon to try to find it, there's a few free to be me's and other things come up. So I'm just
A
saying,
journey of transgenerational healing. There it
there
is.
you go. So I highly recommend your book because I've read your book and it's so beautiful. And I know your mother and I know the work that you did. And I know the marriage of spirit played an important role in that generational healing that you did, the intergenerational healing. Um, so yeah, good for you for putting that out into the world. I recommend your book to many people, in fact, who are doing that kind of work, working with your ancestors, working with your children.
Yes, thank you.
I know we're almost out of time. Do you want me to share about the course itself? I think I could
Yeah.
probably
Yes. How
before.
do people sign up, and what do
Yeah.
they need to know to make it happen?
Okay. No, I'm going to read it because I can't possibly remember logistics. So give me a sec. I'm pulling it up here. Okay. So these are reminders. I've already said this. The course dates are September 9th through October 21st, 2026 this year. Every Wednesday starting on September 9th for 5 weeks, there'll be a drop of the next session. You'll get in your inbox link to the next session. Again, it's based in Leslie's audios that were the source material for the Marriage of Spirit book. You can take the course asynchronously. You don't have to worry if you're not available the whole time or if you fall behind. You get 6 months either from the date you sign up or the day the course starts, whichever comes later. So you get to keep all the audios and the PDFs forever. Those are the home practices and the transcripts and all of that. There are 3 live Zoom webinars with me, teaching and questions and answers. You can send your questions in advance, and I'm happy to share with you whatever comes up. We do have, like I said, we have home practices we've developed. We've got some new videos, beautiful archival footage of Leslie, and some lovely videos we've added to the course. If you're interested in the course, you can go to corelight.org to the homepage. You scroll down, and the course is listed right there. If you have the time, I recommend scrolling down to the bottom. We have a whole bunch of sample audio clips. They're a couple minutes long or so from Leslie. And there's one clip for each of the courses. And it's like taking a mini course just to sit and listen to those clips. It's really profound. That's it. That's all I have to say about the the course. So I want to close by saying thank you to you, Helané. Thank you so much for being here and for being my friend and for doing all the work you do in the world.
It's been such a pleasure to dive deeply into this. And I'm just so, so, so grateful for the tools, for the work, for you. And I hope that the audience really got a sense of what it was like. And if it resonates with them, I wholeheartedly recommend it and hope they take advantage of this wonderful opportunity. Yes.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Brad. Yes. Until we meet again.
Yes, thank you. And thanks to everybody who participated. If you're listening in the future or you listened live, thank you for coming. We're grateful for your being here in the field of love and hope to see you soon.